everybody. Welcome to Coffee Chat. I'm Andy Bozarth, Community Outreach and Advocacy Director for AARP Kansas, and I'm joined today by Frances Graves. She is a community volunteer in Bartlett, and we're going to discuss the wonderful new challenge grant that the Bartlett community received. So welcome, Frances. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you could take time out of your schedule and join me today. And congratulations on receiving that grant. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you. It's quite the honor, and we're very excited.
Can you tell me a little bit about Bartlett, where it is, how many people live there, what you do there?
Sure. So we are a rural community in southeast Kansas. We're really close to the Oklahoma border in Labette County. Only about 70 people actually live in Bartlett, but we draw people from all over the area. So the biggest thing in town is our Bartlett Co-op. So we have farmers from a wide range that come into town to do their business and drop off their grain. We also have 2 churches and a school with about 120 kids who go to that school.
Wow, now you have 120 kids who go to the school, but only 70 people in town. How does that work?
Well, around here and in many rural communities, a lot of people like to live in the country. They don't want to live in town. They don't want to have neighbors, that sort of thing. So I'm in Bartlett proper, the township, but not the actual city. So I can't be on the city commission, but that's the only downfall. We're about a mile or 2 away from town, but just out in the country. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's great to live out in the country and on the edge of town, have all that open space. And what we were talking about was the grant that you received, and what do you plan to do with those funds?
So we have the space in town that's been designated as a park, a city park, honoring a longtime banker. Before we lost our bank, that was his facility there that he managed that banking location. And the bank gifted us this plot of land. So we're going to turn it into a park. We've purchased a nice shelter house, a hand-built wooden shelter house. And
wow.
We're going to put in a swing set and some seating and some flower gardens to make it a nice place to get together in town.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. And how do you see this park bringing people together?
So the really cool thing, why I applied for this grant, is because your mission to bring people of different ages together, I thought this is perfect, because we had the local building and trades vocational team at the high school just down the road. They built this shelter house for us at cost, which is wonderful. So those high school kids built it. They'll be able to see their work. We have many retired people in the community who are on the city council who have been helping. My mother-in-law is leading the gardening efforts with her youth group, and their high school and middle school aged youth group is repairing the sidewalks right now. And then all of the farmers oftentimes come into town with their families. So that'll be a place for them to drop their kids off to enjoy the swing set while they're at the grain elevator, or to have a quick meal there at the shelter house.
So you actually see this park being more of a larger community, in the sense of community, more than just the city, the people that live in the city of Bartlett.
Absolutely, right. And we do have the school, so we have all the traveling teams coming in for all of the sports games, and I can see it being used there. I'd like to get to the point where, since we have seating now, to have a food truck come in. People always get excited to eat someone else's food when you live in the country and you don't have restaurants at your disposal.
Oh, how fun. That would be you could even have like a big old festival of food trucks. Have a couple of them come in and try, have them available for people to try.
Yep.
So in order to receive this grant, you had to do some fundraising to do a match. And how did you go about that?
So you'll see the logo up here in the corner. We have an annual harvest festival. It's actually in 2 weeks, and we get together and we have a few events just to bring the community together. Normally we have music. This year we're just doing a 5K and a car show and a fishing derby. But we've been raising funds through this Harvest Festival for several years, primarily through donations, sponsors, and t-shirt sales. So that's how we were able to save up enough money for the match to build this park.
Oh, I think that's great. And where in Bartlett do you have a fishing derby?
Well, there's actually a beautiful little pond. We call it a lake, but it's small compared to lake standard. But it's a large pond, and it's on the grounds. The city owns it. It's right behind the school. So we bring in 50 to 60 kids who get up early on a Saturday and compete in the fishing derby.
I think that's great. And you were telling me a little bit about the school. I know I live in more of an urban area, and we have grade school, middle school, and high school, but your school system is set up differently. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure, that's correct. So we have a K-8 school. We have a consolidated high school, which is the Labette County High School, and it brings in all of the consolidated grade schools to that one high school. But so we're K-8. So my daughters this will be their last year all at the same school building in the second grade, fifth grade, and eighth grade. But it's a really wonderful family environment. Like I said, 120 kids total, and the older kids will often help with the younger kids, like read them stories, help them in crafts. So we have a STEAM room where we do science and art type of projects, and it's really great to see the different ages working together, not just staying in their own classroom.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. It's different than what we have here, but it sounds like it would be pretty exciting, actually, and maybe in some ways better.
It's different.
Yeah.
I grew up in the city, and I really like this for my kids. It's been great, and I think in the country we kind of take care of each other, and the school kind of mirrors that ethos. So it's been a really nice place to be.
And what's the best part of living in Bartlett?
I think it really is the people. I think that, I mean, the natural beauty is important. The people around us are often farmers and ranchers and entrepreneurs in some way, so that creativity is pretty wonderful. But it is, I think, the people. My kids do. Everyone knows them, and they know that they're watching. They're being watched by others, not just their parents. So that's kind of a nice, supportive environment.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town, so I understand that concept. If you do something, your mom's going to know by the time you get home.
Exactly.
Can you tell me a little bit about what the process of applying for the AARP Challenge Grant was like?
So it wasn't very difficult. It's a really straightforward application, I think. I gathered the budget, what we hope to do, who our partners were. That was important for me to be able to give that narrative as far as the high school teacher leading the class, the students building the shelter house, and then having the support of the city and the city council is important, and then demonstrating who the audience would be. So I could talk about how many farmers come through the co-op during harvest season, how much traffic the town sees with the park right there on the main street, giving them a place to enjoy the outdoors and to maybe congregate in a nice, healthy environment. I think may have led us to be able to receive this award. So it was not an intimidating process. I think you make it pretty easy and straightforward, and it's good to get your thoughts together before conducting a community project like that. And it reminds you of the importance of bringing people together who also think like you and want to create the same end game.
Yes, I appreciate that. And I encourage everybody who has a community project they want to get through to apply for the AARP Challenge Grants. They are a short-term grant that help people with projects in their community that they can finish in like 6 months period. And so I really encourage everybody next year when the AARP Challenge Grants are open to apply for those. And who knows, you may be building a park in your community. So, um, Francis, would you give any advice about park building to our listeners?
I think one challenge of the AARP grant is they ask specifically to try to bring different types of people together. And I think that's important to consider when you're thinking, as a young mom, when my kids were really little, I wanted one thing. Now my kids are getting a little older, so don't I don't quite remember the need for the bucket swing, that sort of thing. So I think the way that grant was written really encourages you as you're thinking about a park to remember that it needs to be used by elderly people. It needs to be accessible by people with disabilities. There are so many options with parks and outdoor space for both learning and kind of that sensory, relaxing, the type of movements that help kids now who are struggling, and we've identified that these are ways that can help relieve that stress for them. So I would encourage people to just try to think creatively and try to think about all the different types of people who might be using that space, and then it becomes a little bit more of a problem-solving approach instead of just thinking we need this $75,000 play structure. You can create a beautiful space and a community space with less money, and just trying to pay attention to those audiences.
Well, you guys have done a great job at putting together a plan and implementing that plan for a new park in Bartlett. And so I'm really excited that you were able to join me today. I appreciate you taking your time to let people know about Bartlett and to let people know about the AARP Challenge Grant. And after the park is complete, would you come back and join me again and bring pictures and show me how it turned out?
I would love to. That would be an honor. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. Thank you very much.